Today, we are talking about seasons, specifically fall, but seasons in general, and the importance of seasons, why I am so passionate about seasonal living, and why I used to avoid seasons at all costs. This past weekend, we had the autumnal equinox, and now we are fully into the seasonal shift of fall. And it is time to embrace the fall energy and all the magic that it brings. And I'm also going to be making a little tea concoction, especially for the fall season. And so I thought I'd walk us all through that together. But first, I want to talk about seasonal living. What does it mean to live seasonally? And let's see, is there an exact definition? So, the exact definition says seasonal living is a way of life that involves living in harmony with the changing season. It promotes a deeper connection with nature's rhythms by championing seasonal eating, considered consumption, and seasonal activities. Seasonal living just means living in alignment with nature and soaking in the abundance that nature has to offer us in that moment in the way that it is offering that moment. And that includes maybe trying to align with what is growing in your region in that season, if possible. That can be really limiting and challenging depending on where you live and what season it is. So it's all about working in the means of what is supportive for you. It also, again, means aligning with the pace and the energy of what the season is offering us, noticing what's happening in nature, and celebrating all the seasonal holidays and enjoying all the seasonal activities. And it really does deepen our connection to nature as this living being, having a relationship with nature and saying, okay, I see what you're offering me and what you're not offering me right now, and I'm going to be okay with that. I'm going to welcome that and embrace that and acknowledge that. For me, living seasonally also means understanding and connecting to our own internal seasons, which do go hand in hand with the seasons that are happening externally, but might not always be matching. You might be going through an internal winter in summer, or just be having a day where you feel winter energy or summer energy. Also, if you have a female cycle, we go through the seasons each month. The energy of the seasons each month correspond with a different part of our cycle. There's so many different ways that we can embrace seasonal, cyclical, energetic living. And I've shared this in various places in the past, but I used to hate the seasons. And I grew up on the East Coast. I grew up in New York, and I hated winter so much. There's many different reasons for this, but a part of me just felt shut down in the winter. I'm really sensitive to the cold. I started to associate winter with depression, in a sense, with feeling sad and low and anxious and just kind of closed in on myself. And a big part of that is because I could not slow down. I didn't know how to slow down. I didn't think it was okay. I found safety in the energy that summer brought, this constant action and movement and output. And so I felt I always had to be in an internal summer, and therefore I always wanted to be in an external summer to support that. And so as soon as I could, I lived in places that had eternal summers. I lived in Hawaii, I lived in California, I traveled to Australia and Bali and all these places that were always warmer and that didn't have these distinct shifts into all the four seasons. I completely burnt myself out. You're always chasing the sun, you're probably going to get burned. And of course, this is not everyone's experience, and you can still fully embrace seasonal and cyclical living if you live in California or any place that doesn't have the four seasons in the same way that some place like the East Coast does. But for me personally, my healing required me to embrace all the different seasons and cycles that I move through. And that required me to go someplace that had external seasons. And so for me, the first place that I re-embraced that was the UK. And in England, I forced myself to start to live seasonally. I made it an intention and I really leaned into that. And it was so healing. And only through embracing seasonal living have I been able to embrace all my seasons, really celebrate them within myself. And now I still get anxious around winter. I still am not the best with the cold. I'm still learning how to fully embrace and embody all of these practices. But by choosing seasonal living, it makes it more fun. I'm constantly looking for seasonal things to do and ways to celebrate the season and to be present in this season. For example, on the equinox, I went and got fall candles, certain scents that I only light during fall, certain decorations that I only put out during fall. I went to the farmer's market and got flowers for fall. I went pumpkin picking and apple picking. At the farmer's market, I got specifically what is in season right now, and I just made it fun. And I spent time in nature, connecting and slowing down. I took myself for a little nature walk around my house and found the prettiest leaves that I could find. I made it a challenge for myself to do that. So it's just these little things that we can do to make it fun, to really bask in the awe and the joy of the season. Also, the seasons have so much to teach us. Nature has so much to teach us. And if we are present with the lessons and the blessings of the season, we can really integrate and embody that within ourselves. For example, fall is all about shedding and letting go. The trees are losing their leaves. We are making our final harvests before winter. Things aren't growing as abundantly and quickly or at all. So we can notice what's going on in nature and be like, oh, that's a season that I am going through too, energetically. Whether or not it feels like the dominant season in our life at that time, there's something about that season that is happening presently for us in this moment. What is it time for you to let go of? What is it time for you to shed? What was your summer harvest and what is still bountiful and present and that you can enjoy and use to support yourself throughout fall and winter? If we're moving through the different seasons, summer is about being seen and bright. Think that Leo sunshine energy, confidence and prioritizing connection and external output and passion and growth. And it's also related to young adulthood and just always being active and doing. And then we move into autumn and it's the shedding and it's the reflecting, it's preparing and focusing on nourishment and slowing down and softening and planting some seeds and change. And that's the time of maturity. Then we have winter, which is all about hibernation and this full inwards process and continued reflecting and releasing and planting seeds even more and waiting. It's all about waiting and endings. Winter is associated with death. Then we come into spring, which is coming out of hibernation and slowly re-entering the world and planting even different seeds. Again, because at different times we plant seeds for different things. And spring is all about new beginnings and youth. Each season holds this different energy. It's important to ask ourselves, what is my relationship like with the seasons? What has it been in the past and what has it evolved into? What is my favorite season? What is the season that's easiest for me to embrace? And has this changed over the years? And also, what is the most challenging season for me and why? Like I said, winter has always been the most challenging for me, but autumn also used to be really, really challenging because it meant that winter was coming. So I was already feeling anticipatory anxiety and dread and fear. And summer was my favorite season. But now I would say, honestly, spring and fall might be my favorite holidays. I love them so much. And summer's up there too. Summer will always hold a special place in my heart. But spring and fall hold these magic energies. Like you can just feel the magic in the air. I step outside in the fall and the wind is just whipping and you can just feel it. It's like dense with magic. And of course, fall is when we have Samhain, which is this time of potent magic, which we will be talking about much more come October. So stay tuned for that. So with all of that being said, let's make a little herbal tea together and talk about our intentions for autumn. I use fall and autumn interchangeably. I can't choose. Okay. I didn't have anything pre-planned, but this is what's coming to my mind right now. I definitely want to use ginger because it is warming and I'm already starting to feel the coldness seep into my bones. I want to use oat straw because it's nourishing and it's also a pretty mild flavor. Some of the other ones I was thinking about, like vervain or skullcap, which are really good nervines for the nervous system and grounding, but they also have a slightly more intense flavor. So I still might use one of them, but it would only be a dash. Because especially right now, I'm just making this tea for me and maybe one of my one-on-one clients. Okay, also cinnamon, because what is a fall mix without cinnamon? And like I have been saying over and over again, cinnamon is my favorite magic supporter right now. I'm also going to do elecampane root because any root will be really grounding. And we are now in Libra season. Libra is an air sign and fall season is associated with air. So we want to ground ourselves and know that we are going to be feeling a little bit more airy. So a root is a really good option, and elecampane specifically because it really supports the immune system. And of course, all these herbs have so many different benefits, but these are some of the key points on why I am choosing these in this moment. And lastly, I'm going to do some nettle because, again, it's a very grounding herb, it's a very nourishing herb, and it helps support you in holding your boundaries, in releasing what needs to be released, and in protecting you through all of that, especially since we're still in eclipse season, a lot's going on. Nettle will help us make the changes and the transformations that this time is asking us to make while nourishing and supporting us. So I have my little mixing bowl and measuring spoon. And when it comes to measuring for tea, especially with these herbs that I picked, you really can't go wrong. It's up to your tastes and preferences. I will say that elecampane root I will do the least of because it can be a little intense. And being a root, it will be harder to break down in the tea. So you might even want to make this as a decoction, which is when you boil the water first on the stove and then add your herbs into the boiling water, which will break down the root a bit more, and then you strain it and drink it like that. But the rest of these herbs don't need that. You can experiment and see what feels good for you. You can also make this as an infusion, and you can make it like a normal tea and then leave it overnight and then strain it. And you can either reheat it or warm it slightly or just drink it as is. Even room temperature is fine. I don't like any cold drinks, so I never drink anything straight from the fridge. But leaving it overnight, and you can even mix it with more water. So then you're drinking it throughout the day and it's a little more diluted, but you're having a larger quantity of it and it's sat even longer. Just some suggestions to play with. Okay, so again, I'm just making this for me to fill this. So right now I'm doing 2 tablespoons of the elecampane. We'll kind of see how it goes. I'm doing 3 tablespoons of oat straw. And the oat straw is a good filler because it's a very neutral taste, holds a lot of nutrients, and kind of balances out the flavor. I love ginger, so I think I'm going to do about 2.5 tablespoons. And the cinnamon, I'm going to do about a teaspoon. I would definitely do more, but I'm just not actually sure how it will taste in this mix. So we're erring on the safe side, and you can always sprinkle more cinnamon on top. And lastly, nettle, which I use a lot. You might have noticed that. It's one of my all-time favorite herbs, both for benefits and taste. My body just vibes really well with nettle. I think the energy of it is also kind of akin to the mix of Virgo and Scorpio, which is a big part of my energy. So I feel like it really supports me. It's one of my main plant allies that I work with. I did 3 tablespoons of that, and now we're just gonna mix her up. I usually, when I'm making products for the apothecary, I have my little wooden spoon, but here I'm just using my clean hand to mix it. And I can smell the ginger, and I'm very excited. Ooh, I already feel the ginger clearing my sinuses just from that. And then I'm just going to pour it into my canister. And we made the perfect amount. All of these teas are pretty accessible and easy to get, but of course, see what is accessible and easy for you. See what you are drawn to when it comes to these herbs. A big part of living seasonally is getting connected to what you feel drawn to. So one way I know that nettle is a really good ally for me is because I'm constantly just feeling intuitively drawn to it. I constantly just grab it. And I knew that ginger was a perfect herb for this tea because before my brain even got into the thinking mode, it went ginger, just popped into my head. So see what you are drawn to. If you have a farmer's market near you, you can see if they have any herbs. They should even have fresh ginger, sometimes fresh sage, rosemary, pine. You can see what is around and work with it that way too. But I highly recommend that you find some way to connect with the fall season. And our main intention here at Intuitively Wild for fall is to make space for stillness, softness, and silence. I go into this in more detail on the podcast, upcoming reflection and intention setting episode for October, and in our autumnal equinox ritual that came out last week. But this is a time all about shedding, releasing, letting go, anything that no longer serves us. And in order to do that, we have to be able to slow down. The energy of fall is asking us to slow down. It's asking us to release. It's asking us to shed what is no longer serving us and what we can no longer bring with us, because winter is coming, and winter is all about getting down to the bare bones, really just taking with us what nourishes us and supports us and grounds us and heals us and is good for us. And so autumn is that time to be in the pause and take stock and then let it all go. That's my offering for you. That's my suggestion for you, my invitation for you. And to notice if any discomfort comes up as you try to slow down, as you try to soften and be in more stillness and silence, and just seeing what comes up for you and asking yourself why, seeing how it feels to have more space in your life. A lot of us are very uncomfortable with space. Okay, more on that later. I'm so excited to embrace and embody and celebrate the fall season with all of you. And I will see you guys soon.